want to do what is loving and caring.
Of a spiritual
life. But I wasn't prepared.
I think it was also a simplicity about if you take away the spiritual value of it, just saying
he knows about the nuns as they wear these strange clothes.
Is a uniform everyday kind of a situation, okay? And
trendy is important to somebody now. You have a sense that you belong to a certain
much more simple style.
I think they saw us as somebody who represented the church, represented some kind of moral values. When you no longer wear that habit,
I believe that.
Who are you and what are you?
That
how are
says
you acting?
something to people.
Set Apart is a series about experiencing the habit as a woman religious. Brought to you by Sister Story, an organization aimed at broadening awareness of Catholic sisters, and sponsored by the Conrad Hilton Foundation. You are listening to the episode Shrine Habit, featuring Sister Paulette Paz, who is a school sister of Notre Dame from the Central Pacific Province. Throughout this podcast, you will be reminded of her catchphrase, "Be the change from within," which describes her belief of being an educator no matter where you are or where you find yourself in life. She was born into a Catholic family and has been a sister for 58 years, and she will discuss her role as a sister before and after she bore the habit.
We just had a long skirt with a cape, and we wore a bonnet when we were out and about, and so it was a starched bonnet, even though they can't see this. And that was our official garb when we went out as postulants, and so I was a postulant for a year. Then when we were received into the novitiate, we had a serge dress that had pleats across the front and pleats across the back, and it was like 4 yards of serge goods.
Wow.
Heavy. It had big sleeves in it, so that I forget how many yards were in the sleeves, but it was a big sleeve. You could put all kinds of objects up those sleeves in order to carry them around. We had what we called a wimple, which was a white starched, folded in so far as it crossed around the front of you and around, partly around the back and tied in the back. Also tied around your head, so that the only thing that showed really was your face. On top of that was a long veil, which was starched white on the inside, came down to about your elbows, but then was black on the outside, and folded along the top so that it was pinned right here and pinned along the side of your head, so that when the wind blew, you didn't take off. I mean, it didn't take off, and neither did you. I think when I entered, like I was, 18 years old, and so I had known these sisters for many, many years, and it only seemed natural that they wore that habit, and that's the habit that I would wear as well. I don't even know that I thought too terribly much about it. My sister did, however. She's 6 years older than I am. She went with me to buy my shoes, which were supposed to be Oxfords with a small heel and tied shoes. Well, she laughed herself sick because I don't know why you're buying those things, because you're never going to stay in the convent anyway. And I said, maybe, maybe not. So, but for me, I think it was symbolic of the kind of life that I wanted to live. And I think I just took it for granted that that was what I was going to be wearing. And I didn't think too terribly much about it. I am not very fine with heat, and so that was a terribly hot summer when I entered, and so it was a bear. That was probably going to be the way we were going to be habited for as long as I was going to live. But that was the beginnings, and so I wore that habit for like 13, 14 years. And then when Vatican II asked us to go back to our roots and to take a look at who we were and why we were doing what we were doing, we as a congregation decided that, yes, indeed, maybe some changes were needed as far as habit. Our foundress came from Germany, and so some of the German women were not habited in that way, but wore long dresses, were going to enter any kind of a religious community. That was the kind of habit they were going to have a habit of some kind. We were certainly challenged when we first changed our habit, because one of the things was, what were you going to do with 14 yards of material? And so some people that were really able to sew continued to use much of the material that they had and made the kind of habit that they figured that they could wear. And they helped some of the rest of us that weren't so very good with seamstress. I know the first day that I walked back into the classroom after we had changed our habit, the kids wouldn't look at me. They were scared. They really were scared. And I said, I really am the same person that I was here last week. It's just that we changed our habit. And really they didn't ask much. They didn't ask very many questions, but they just didn't know. They didn't know how to react. Yeah. And we really did not inform them that we were going to do this, which was not, as I think back on it, I mean, we really should have told them. Other than that, the other thing that happened, that comes to mind right now, a salesman came in, and this was after we had changed habits, and he said to me, well, I don't particularly like what you have right now. He said, and I think you're going to be sorry too. He said, it's going to be very much more expensive. You're going to have to continue to buy nylons. You're going to have to continue to purchase all kinds of other things. You didn't have to do that when you had the other habit, he said. So it's going to be expensive. You're going to see how much more you're going to have to be paying. And I thought, that's not really why we changed. But I did find that many people went like this. I mean, either they approached us much more easily and talked, or they really shied away because they said, we like the way you were, we don't like the way you are now. And so for some people it opened them up, and for some people it closed them off. And it's very interesting how that happened, and based on an exterior kind of thing. And I've always said since that time that it's, I think with Vatican II, they told us to go back to our roots. And that not only for me meant go back to your roots as far as what you wear, the exterior, but go back to the roots of who you are as a person who is dedicated to following a certain kind of life, a vowed life. What does that mean? What do those vows mean? What does that kind of witness mean in the world? And so I think it was the call not on the exterior as much as it was for me on the interior. What is that going to be like, and how do I need to grow interiorly in my prayer life, in understanding a deepening of my vowed life, and understanding more what that meant in our community of sisters, and in the community in which I was living and working. How did I help build those relationships more? Because when I entered, we could not go into people's homes. For the most part, we went to school, we went to church, we went back to the convent again. So to build any kind of relationships with people outside of our religious community of women was pretty difficult. Yeah. So I found that to be a much more open road, and brought out a way of building relationships that didn't seem to be possible for me before, and another kind of witness, really. I think before this, and to this day, I think when people hear School Sisters of Notre Dame, if they know us, they think educators. I think it also broadened our ministry insofar as we have people who are doing religious education with adults, with children, We still have people who are in schools. We have people who are doing social ministry, liturgists, people who are into all kinds of peace and justice work, working with women. So I think that whole thing broadened out so much more than what it was before. And I think that is what our charism calls us to do, be educators no matter where we are. And I think we had to rethink that ourselves, because we thought, and I did anyway, education meant education in a school situation. And so I say now it's not only in that classroom situation, but in wherever I am, however I am. I hope that has been so instilled in me that I really am an educator wherever I am. And so a number of us said, yes, we really do want a definite change with the habit, just because of the situations that I talked about before. And I think part of it was freeing of the spirit within a different style of dress, and so it also called forth a different way of sharing my life with other people too. Well, part of it was just physically liking the freedom of not having to wear 4 yards of serge in the summertime as well, really. And I think those basically were the reasons. Some of them, and some of the sisters that I lived with did not change. They didn't want to. They said, this is what I was going to wear when I entered, and so I want to do that until I die. And then some of them did change later. But the difficulty came in trying to figure out, how do I use the material that I've got here in order to be able to make something? I mean, in order to be able to make this, because I'm not a seamstress. And the other difficulty was trying to explain that to people, because there were, even some of my own relatives and friends said, we don't like this. As my own inner spirit and saying, yeah, this is what I want to do, that was not difficult. People liked the symbolism, and they believed, I think that they believed it really spoke to many people to have people know that they were religious. For me, it wasn't as great a sign, and if people really wanted to know who I was, then they should come find out who I was. It was not that symbolic for me personally, but I know for many people it was. Not only our sisters, but other lay people as well. In fact, one man said to me, I want to know if I'm talking to a sister. And I said, well, what's the difference, And he said, well, the language I will use. and I said, well, maybe that's something you need to look at. If I wear a veil, you talk to me one way. If I don't wear a veil, you talk to me in another way. I think if you walked into a room, and you were fully garbed, and you walked into a room, I don't care who was all in there, it was like you stuck out. And if you walked into a small group, the conversation, you could tell, it changed somewhat, if not considerably, or it was silent, and those kinds of experiences just said to me, I don't know if this is a greater help or a greater hindrance as far as having people know that you are a Catholic sister. A visible representation of a spiritual life. It was also a simplicity about a habit. If you take away the spiritual value of it, just saying this is a uniform, everyday kind of a situation. Okay, and to live in a much more simple style. Yes, we need to dress simply. I believe that says something to people. Ordinarily, I do wear our symbol, which is a symbol of the world, and it has an M in it because we are dedicated to Mary. Also has a cross in it, which says, you know, it's movement toward God, it's movement toward other people. I try to use and reuse. I very seldom buy things that are new. We do have kind of what we call an exchange place at our mother house in Mankato, where people can bring things if someone dies within the Mankato area, they will send some of the clothing that they have had there.
Interesting, yeah.
So sometimes I just go down and I pick up things that the only thing I can't ever find are shoes because my feet are too big.
Gotcha, yeah.
But otherwise, I don't need a lot of clothing. One, as Jose Habde said, a Franciscan, when I get one thing and I put something else out, you know, and you can only wear one thing at a time anyway, and so we do have washing machines. Way back when I first started teaching, I used a lot of purple in decorating my classroom and so forth, and one of the sisters said to me, "Why do you like purple so much?" And I said, "I don't know." I said, "I didn't know I did." And she said, "Well, just look at what you do and how you do it." And I said, "True." So I have a lot of purple in my wardrobe, and everybody that sees something purple that knows me says, "Oh, I bet Paula would like that."
That's funny.
So I do get things in that way. Other than that, I don't wear dresses a whole lot unless I am really at some formal function. I have a special dress that I got in Africa, so I sometimes wear that. But otherwise, I don't think so. And ordinarily, we put our habit on first thing in the morning, took it off last thing at night. And so, as I said, you know, 4 yards of serge goods, that's a lot. That's a lot. And so, you got ordinarily the hardest thing really was we had two habits, you know, and if you washed one, it took forever to get it dry, and it was it was not the greatest as far even as hygiene was concerned, as far as I was concerned. And the first time that I went home, I said to my mom, you know, "I'll have to starch my wimple." And she said, "Well, what do you use?" And I said, "Well, just ordinary starch, you know." So I got it washed and starched, and we put it on the side of the refrigerator. When we took it off, it was just like a board. I think we put too much starch on it. Oh dear. So those kinds of things were kind of fun sometimes. Or, you know, in the summer when I perspired just so awful. So the whole back of my veil when I was a novice got purple because it just went right straight through. And the sister in charge was not real happy with me because she couldn't get it out because the dye came right. But the symmetry of it was very fine too. The symmetry of this was really good. We called this our shrine habit. So for me, it was more the negative, I think, of if I walk into a room, I want to be able to walk into a room and be a part of the group of wherever I am and move into the situation and be a part of the conversation. And not have it be stilted, because I think often it was stilted. I think for me, it is a witness value. It does speak to people in saying, you know, there's more to life than just making $1. And there is important aspects of life that are really important for everybody, and I do think that that kind of witness to people is important.
Thank you for listening to Set Apart, a series about experiencing the habit as woman religious, brought to you by Sister Story. Special thanks to the Conrad Hilton Foundation for their support. Interviews were conducted by Brianna Berner, Tranya Jean, and Alexa White. Music is from Free Music Archive. This series has been produced by me, Lily Jacobson, with additional support and guidance provided by Garrett Tiedemann and Alicia Beyer. Please connect with us at sisterstory.org. Check out our video content on Vimeo and YouTube. Like us on Facebook and follow Sister Story on Twitter, Pinterest, and Instagram. Planning any events for National Catholic Sisters Week, March 8th through 14th? Connect with us at nationalcatholicsistersweek.org and submit your events for post and promotion. We look forward to hearing from you soon.